it again. We're going back to Omaha. And it's on to the College World Series Final. The 2015 National Champions.
And welcome into another edition of 1186, the podcast, the official podcast of the University of Virginia baseball program. It is Monday, April 14th. The Wahoos coming off a nice weekend series win at home against Pitt. I am Damon Dillman, joined as always by Andrew Ramspacker, and we are joined this week by one of the catalysts in that UVA lineup, the guy at the top of the lineup these last couple of weeks at this point, I guess, as the Hoos have been putting runs on the board. Aidan Teel, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I know you're a big fan of the program, right?
Yeah, no, I live and die by this program.
Glad somebody does.
Yeah,
you
right.
And Justin.
Yep.
So yeah, we were talking about it before we got started. We just mentioned it off the top. So let's start with this past weekend, especially the way things ended, kind of the exclamation point you put on things yesterday, all the runs you guys were able to put on the board, but just getting a series win, getting back on track in that sense. How nice is it to get that taste back in your mouth, especially at home?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's awesome. Nonetheless, like Coach O'Connor always says, you can never take winning for granted. And that's something where we had a great game yesterday, and it was a game where everyone could really gained a lot of confidence from it, where we had so many guys hitting home runs, hitting hard baseballs. Everyone was just doing their job, and it really showed what this team can do when everyone is clicking and firing on all cylinders. So it was great to be a part of, and I'm just super proud of all of the guys for coming through and just sticking to what we do every day. And when you trust it, it really takes its course and really helping this team win. So props to everyone who was a part of that win yesterday. Thomas Valinkis on the mound was unbelievable. I mean, that's really where it starts, is when you have a guy come out who does a great job and gives you 5+, 6+ innings of just great work. Like you can't, it was unreal. You can't really describe what he did, but it was great. And I don't really think he understands the value of what he brought to yesterday's game, but he set the tone with that first inning going 1, 2, 3 and really throwing a shutout. So, I mean, being the tone setter in that aspect, everything's contagious in baseball. So it was awesome. It was contagious for the hitters and everyone hitting. It was contagious for one another. So it was great.
And obviously, not only the weekend series, but you go 3-1, during the week, which is important, obviously, for a number of reasons. But dating back to the way the series ended in Raleigh, how important was it to respond in the way you did? Because that's one of those losses, right, where I'm sure can really stick with people for a long time.
Yeah.
To have that lead and to let slip a chance to win a series on the road in the ACC, but to come back the way you did. What was the message, I guess, kind of coming out of Raleigh, and how do you think you guys have kind of used it going forward?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Coach O'Connor always says it. This league, the ACC, it's a dogfight. Every game you have, it's a tough game. Games are not easy to win, and you need to be at your best every single day if you want to do well in this league and in college baseball in general. Everybody has the same goal of winning a national championship, and if you are not at your best every day, if you are not willing to fight every single day for the guy to the left and right of you, you're going to get pummeled in this league. So that was the message coming into this weekend of you have to have the fight, and you have to have it for all 27 outs, or really as long as it takes. So that's something that we took into this weekend, and it showed with the way we played and the way everyone came through and played for all 27 outs.
How much responsibility, just listening to your answers, and it's so much of it is just, Andrew and I have been around this program for a long time, and so much of what you're saying is what we've heard generation after generation of guys who have come through this program. How much responsibility do you put on yourself to be one of those? Because you're in your third year in this program now. You've been around a lot of leaders going back to your first year when it was your brother and it was Jake, and then last year, obviously, so many leaders on that team. How much responsibility do you put on yourself now to be one of those outspoken veterans? Because it seems like again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but it seems like a role that you've embraced. Is that a fair way of describing it?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also a very easy role to step into when everyone else on the team is a leader as well. Where we have guys like Jacob Ferentz, who came in as a fifth year last year and immediately became one of the leaders through his play and the way he led by example. And he gained a ton of experience at this level last year where he can teach that to the younger guys, but also a guy like Luke Hansen, a guy like Harrison Didowick, Evan Blanco, Bradley Hodges. We have a bunch of older guys on this team this year where we can all count on each other to lead and pick each other up as time goes on. Maybe one of us doesn't have our best stuff on the mound or at the plate. It's easy to turn to each guy on the team and they have your back. So that's what this program runs on, is having each other's backs and having the trust in one another and being loyal to one another. So I think stepping into that role has been kind of seamless with the way everyone wants to lead and wants that role of taking leadership in a sense. So
Was that, obviously, your first 2 years here, as Damon mentioned, right? You were hurt. Your first year you were out, and then last year, in that pitching role. So like you've had like 3 different kind of seasons so far with the program. Does that, having all those perspectives, help you in a leadership role? Because you know what it's like to be a guy that has to watch from afar. You know what it's like to be a pitcher. You know what it's like to be a position player. How does that play a role in how you lead?
Of course, yeah. I mean, when being a lead, like having leadership qualities, it's being able to kind of relate and gain the experience and have the experience that others have, so you can share your experiences with them. So I understand the role of being on the bench and watching. I understand the role of pitching. I understand the role of position playing now, where those experiences, and again, I'm still learning. I feel like I'm someone in baseball that still needs to gain a lot of experiences as a position player and even a pitcher down the road. Who knows? But I think it really helps because I can relate to those guys who have maybe came in and aren't getting the playing time that they want, but everyone on this team has a role and in some way can help the team. And I've been in each of those roles where it's always constantly finding something that you can do to serve the team and make the team better. So I think that definitely helps with the experience aspect of helping other guys relate and understand what their role is and finding their ways to help the team.
I wanted to follow up on that a little bit because as you were talking about that and about serving the team, I was thinking about your first year when you were hurt and you weren't playing, but you were still like your presence with everybody knew when Aidan was around, right? Whether it was before the game, some of the stuff you guys would do outside of the dugout, like mimicking. Were you the umpire? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah.
You calling balls and strikes, or like in the postseason when the squirt gun and like you were in the middle of all that stuff. And like when I hear you talking about finding your role and serving the team, that's what comes to mind for me. Just so basically, I guess my question is, what do you remember about that first year? And just because again, like it felt like you were in the middle of a lot of the intangible stuff that helped that team along the way.
Yeah. That year was so much fun. That year was awesome. Honestly, when it came to that year, it was again like talking to Coach O'Connor and understanding that I was redshirting that year. I wasn't going to play, but finding any way to help the team possible. And that was the first time I've ever not been able to play baseball and help the team by being on the field. So I had to find something that in some way, shape, or fashion, I could serve the team. And my way is I've always been someone who brings a lot of energy, and I'm a very high energy guy. I'm constantly talking, I'm constantly moving around, and a lot of my teammates know that, and most of them make fun of me for it because I can't stop moving. But that was the one way where I realized, hey, I can help this team by bringing energy every day, bringing energy into the dugout, lifting guys up, being someone they could come talk to, just being a servant to the team, feeding the machine when I was hurt, or doing the baseballs, giving them to the umpires, any way that I was able to serve the team where the guys that were actually playing could focus on just playing instead of all of the other things that were outside of it, I was willing to take on those things for this team so they could go and perform at the highest level, because performing at this level is not easy, and it is very difficult. Every single ball club is very, very impressive. They are all extremely talented. And again, it takes everything out of you to win a ball game. It takes everything. It takes all 27 outs. So it was the one thing that I could do where if a guy didn't have that energy during that day, I was going to be the one to bring them up in any way, shape, or fashion. So that was the role that I took on that year. And I really think it's helped me, because those times when, now that I'm playing and last year when I was pitching, it was still the role of keeping that energy, but now bringing it onto the field and playing with that energy at all times and just really loving the game of baseball.
Whose idea was the water to the face?
So Jake Geloff, who people still say looks more like my brother than Kyle. Jake came up to me.
I can see that.
Yeah, I think it's the hair, it's the dark features. But Jake came up to me and goes, "Yo, come to my car tomorrow. I have something for you." I was like, "All right, cool." So it was right before the ACC tournament, I think it was. And he comes up to me. I go over to his car when he pulled up, and he just tosses me a water gun. And he was like, "This is yours. Don't lose it." And I was like, "What am I supposed to do with it?" Flip it to someone when they hit a home run and they're going to squirt you with it. I was like, this doesn't seem fair. I can't fight back. So, but it was awesome because it helped us hit home runs. It helped bring energy up. It was great. It was unbelievable. It was such a great idea. And I know Jake, Nick Parker, and a bunch of guys were the ones that thought of it and were like, and it was just such a great idea to bring energy to the ball club. So it was great.
How do you? That's such like a for lack of a better phrase, like it's such like a little brother thing. It feels like, hey, we got this fun little guy in the dugout. We're gonna get some team chemistry going by squirting him with the water gun. How much, like, through your time, obviously being Kyle's younger brother, like, have you been put in those kind of roles, but you've enjoyed it and you've embraced it because it made you kind of part of the guys, if you will?
Yeah, of course. I mean, so my freshman year, I came in as I graduated high school a year early, and right after I decided I was going to graduate early and come in early, I ended up needing Tommy John. So I came in, and of course I was Kyle's little brother, but I was also extremely young compared to all of the grad guys.
Mm-hmm.
I was an 18-year-old in a clubhouse with a bunch of guys that were 22 through 24, and they all took it. They all knew that I had no idea what college baseball was about, what college was about, and they took it. They all took the role as being an older brother, but not only being an older brother to me, being an older brother to all of the freshmen, all of the underclassmen. But I really did take that. I really did see all of them become older brothers in a sense, and kind of teaching me in ways of like, hey, this is like giving me the experiences that they've had all through, like Brian Edgington, for example, Nick Parker, Travis Reef-Snyder. They're 5 years of college. Brian Edgington, 6th year of college. They're all of their experiences. They were able to teach me so much where I was able to learn like that, what college was about, what college baseball was about, how much different it is than the baseball that I've played before college. So it was great having all of those guys who had so much experience to share and so much knowledge and wisdom that they could share with me. And I was honestly just a sponge in that aspect of just gaining all the information that they had, so I could then take those experiences that they had, and once it was my time to start playing and start earning a position, I had all of their experiences to learn from. So it was great, and I did feel like a little brother in that clubhouse, just all the older guys, but they were the best older brothers you could ever wish for, and it it was just such a great experience, and I couldn't trade it for the world.
Has that been passed forward? Like, is there like a young version of an Aidan Teel on this team, from that freshman class?
Yeah, I mean, of course, we have like the freshmen. I mean, they're all like this team. I feel is really, we have a really close team, and I feel like all of these freshmen are all of our little brothers, and we're constantly. That's something that I learned is my experience that I learned from my freshman, sophomore, and this year. I will always share and make sure that the younger guys know, so they have those experiences before they even happen, and they understand how to work through them, and they just gain the experience that I was lucky enough to have someone share with me and teach me about it, where I want to be the same for them, where they're lucky enough to have guys like we have in the clubhouse that are able to share information with them so they can deal with their own situations and have those experiences before they come along. So
you're talking about a clubhouse full of older brothers. Obviously, that first year, one of those older brothers was your actual older brother, right?
Yes.
And like, I know at least part of the motivation for enrolling early was to get that opportunity to play for a season with Kyle. Looking back on it now, how much do you value, how much do you appreciate getting to spend, even if you weren't able to be on the field, but getting able to spend that season with him on that team in that run to Omaha? And of course, the season he had too.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was great to be a part of it, because from the time we were 5, from the time that we were able to pick up a baseball bat, Kyle and I were constantly together, working together, trying to perfect our craft, hitting together, throwing together, and getting to the point of being in college together, where Kyle was playing that year, and I knew I wasn't playing, but I was still able to work with him every single day, whether it was feeding the machine late at night, where he'd call me and be like, hey, can you meet me at the field? And it would be like 10:30 at night, and I'd be like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And we would hit for hours on end until midnight, and we would spend so much time together. And having that and seeing the way he worked so diligently, it was the same thing when we were years old. It hasn't changed, and being able to be a part of that again, and ultimately be with him through all of the success, but also the failures that he went through, and being able to be there with my brother was unbelievable, because I got to see the way he dealt with failure. I got to see the way he dealt with success, how he was a leader at all times, and how he just loved the game and has such a passion for the game is something like he's my role model in all aspects of life. And just the way he plays the game of baseball is something that I really took away from him, because he always had constant energy when he was on the field. He had so much fun every time he played. And if everyone played the game like Kyle Teel, they would have a lot more fun playing the game, because you never saw a frown on his face when he was on the field. He always had a smile on his face. And when you take that game, and he took it very seriously, but when he took it in a sense of, it's fun, this is the best time of my life, like I'm going to take advantage of every opportunity, I'm going to have as much fun as possible, the pressures get lifted, and it is a game of just going out there and doing your best and playing the game that you've known since you were 10 years old. So having that and seeing the way he did that was unbelievable for me. It was very influential for me, and just being able to see the way he did it was awesome.
How come you couldn't continue the tradition of, when you were on the bases?
Yeah, you don't seem to have this issue.
That your helmet flies off like it did for your brother.
Yeah, I think my head's shaped a little. He says, I think he's just got a weird head.
My son had his first t-ball practice yesterday. Well, no, one of his first he's rounding the bases. He's ripping his helmet off. I'm like, easy, Kyle Teel.
Yeah. Started a trend. The Evo Shield helmets fit a little more snug, and it was a great choice by Coach Oak to go to Evo. Those helmets are awesome. Everything they have is awesome. So, but I think regardless, if Kyle was wearing any helmet, it would be flying off.
Obviously, that was part of his trademark for a while. But really, the moment that put Kyle on the map was that grand slam he had in Columbia his freshman year. That's basically, I think it was the 8th inning, right? That sent the team to the College World Series. You at that time were a sophomore in high school?
Yes, I was a sophomore in high school.
Okay. Were you in Columbia, or how did you watch that? What do you remember from that moment?
So I was actually playing in I think it was the state semis or the state. It was a big game for my high school. And I remember the announcer coming on in like the 3rd or 4th inning saying, "Good news from Mawa High School alumni Aidan Teel just hit a grand slam to set Omaha."
That's awesome.
I was sitting there, and this was when I was a shortstop. I was sitting there, and I was like, "Really? No way!" Like it was like so surreal. Like thinking, like at that time, like it was the first time I'd been away from my brother for that long, and haven't seen him in so long. And I honestly, in my eyes, saw him as a celebrity at this point. So I was like, he's all over TV. He's all over everywhere. He's making a crazy name for himself. He's doing unbelievable. I was like, wow. That's my brother. Like, that is so awesome. And so I remember that. And then right after our game, we ended up winning, gave him a call, and I was like, dude, I'm so proud of you. This is so awesome. This is what we've trained for our whole lives, and you're making it happen. Keep it up. And then he didn't disappoint in Omaha either. He did a great job there. And just the sky's the limit for the kid. He's unbelievable. So.
And obviously, since that wasn't the 9th, it wasn't a true walk-off, but it was close enough. But I want to ask you about walk-offs, because there seems to be a theme lately, particularly with UVA baseball. We saw it with Henry Ford on Saturday, and I think it happened to you too with the Stanford win. When did it become a thing just to rip the guy's shirt off who has the game-winning hit?
Yeah, I don't know. I remember it was. At least from the Stanford one, it was the one where they reviewed the play after my shirt had already come off. I was like, oh, crap, I might need center field. So I had to put my shirt back on, and then next thing you know, they called it again, and then immediately they ripped my shirt off again. But I remember last year, Henry Godbout hit a walk-off against UMass. His shirt got ripped off. I don't know when it became a tradition, but I guess it's something that's just happened. It's a good tradition, I guess. I mean, we're going to keep it up. So,
do the Evo Shield jerseys rip off a little more easily?
I don't know. I mean, I think we should keep them on to show off
That's true.
Look of the Evo Shield jerseys.
It's true.
Those jerseys are awesome. They gave us so many, and they gave us so many like great designs. I think we should keep them on just to rep the brand a little bit.
You sound like your head coach with all these marketing thoughts.
Yeah, for real.
I've learned a lot from, like, speaking of experiences. The person I've learned the most experiences from is Coach O'Connor. I mean, he's constantly wanting everyone to learn around him and get better around him. He's the true definition of a leader, because not only when he lifts himself up, he lifts everyone up around him. And that's the definition of a leader, is someone who not only brings themselves up when times are down, but also brings up everyone around him. And he's constantly doing that. And I say this in every interview and every question I get asked about him it's a reoccurring theme that he makes every player. I know everyone in the clubhouse thinks this. They'll run through a brick wall for that man. And because we know he would do the same for us. And he's someone that just leads by example and does such a great job with this program. And that's why he's been around and been so successful for so long, and has 900 wins under his belt, and 900 and counting, however many it is now. But he's unbelievable. And there's no other coach I would rather play for. He's the best, and I've learned so much from him.
So I wanted to go back to playing with Kyle, but when you were in high school playing football together.
Yeah.
Andrew and I love these high school football stories from you guys. Do you have any good high school football stories from you guys playing together?
Yeah, I do. It was our first practice. It was actually on my birthday, and Kyle and I, he drove us there because I didn't have my license yet, and he was the starting quarterback, and we were doing defensive stuff, and they had me at safety, and we were doing 7-on-7s, and Kyle ended up throwing a pass, and I ended up picking him off, and then the next day, and I felt like the man. I was like, oh, this is so awesome. Like, couldn't take a smile off my face if you tried. And I kept nagging him about it. And next practice, we were doing tackling drills, and we were in the red zone, and I was at quarterback, and Kyle was actually playing strong safety on the other team because he played defense for a while, and he was a very, very good defender. He had great instincts. And so it was a read option, and I ended up reading and went this way. I took the ball and went to run up the middle, and Kyle and I met each other there. And the first one, we did it twice. The first one, I ended up winning, and it was complete luck. I ended up spinning off of him and scoring. And then the next one, he was running the ball, and he absolutely laid me out so bad. And I was laying there, and I was looking up, waiting for him to like help me up, and he just walked right over me. And I was like, yep, I probably deserve that. That was a very humbling moment for me. Because thing is with having an older brother is younger brothers don't win much. It's a tough one to win. It's always a tough battle to win, especially when it comes to something physical, because there's that edge of just wanting a little bit more. So he wanted that touchdown a little bit more than I wanted to stop him. So, but we've always had so much fun playing football together. I mean, my mom has stories of us when we were younger. Our basement in our old house was an absolute wreck. I got it finished and redone the whole thing. Second day she had the whole basement redone. Kyle pushed me and my head went through the wall. So the next thing you know, we had to run upstairs. Mom, there's a hole in the wall. And when Kyle would beat me up, when she got that call, she would beat both of us up. She would be happy camper about that. So, but yeah, we always, I really credit toughness and I really credit the toughness that I have now to the way Kyle and I grew up with, the way we were always roughhousing, the way we were always kind of just beating each other up, playing football, playing wrestling in the basement, when we were playing two-hand touch football, tackle football with no pads on, whatever it was. I mean, I credit it to him and him making me tough as time went on. So
you mentioned their toughness, football, wrestling. Those three terms in particular makes us think, obviously, of Coach Mack. He recruited, obviously, both you and your brother, and basically everyone that's ever been from your neck of the woods to come to the UVA baseball program in the last 2 decades. We love to hear Coach Mack's stories. Do you have a favorite one that's stood out over the time?
I might not be able to share it. There's so many, I can't even think of one. I will say I know my dad and Coach Mack go back.
Right.
They had played against each other in football in high school, and all I remember is my dad always saying, "Man, Coach Mack he's a tough guy. He's a tough dude." And they played against each other, and I know they would go at it constantly. And I know Coach Mack he's just like I said about Oak, how he's a true leader. Coach Mack's a true leader as well, with the way he always wants you to be at your best and constantly is preaching for you to be at your best. It doesn't matter what you did, a swing before before, an at-bat before, a pitch before. It is on to the next pitch, trying to be your best for that next pitch. And you could have a 4 for 5 day, and your last at-bat, you grounded out and had a weak ground out. He's going to be on you about that last out rather than the 3 doubles and the home run you hit, because he knows where your best is. And if you're not at that standard, that's kind of what lets the softness kind of creep in, is that complacency. And Coach Mack never lets people get comfortable or complacent. And he's always wanting you to be at your best and constantly never get comfortable and complacent with what you're doing. And he has that job, and he doesn't take it lightly. He always wants everyone to be at their best at all times. And I credit him for that. And I credit him for always keeping the Virginia baseball standard at the high that it is.
So is there, how quickly did it all come together? This is just the last thing I wanted to ask you about quickly, was how quickly did it all come together for you to wind up here? It's, I'm assuming between your brother and just, baseball being in your blood, it all came together pretty smoothly.
Yeah. I mean, it started with Kyle. I was in 6th grade. Kyle was a freshman in high school. Kyle came to the UVA camp, and I didn't do the UVA camp because I was young. But I came, and I was here with Kyle, and we were walking around the campus. I was like, wow, this place is awesome. Like, this place is really cool. But it never really clicked in my mind that, like, I was ever going to be in college, because I was so young. I was like, man, that's so far away. I don't even need to worry about it. And then it ended up a few weeks later, Kyle ends up committing here, verbally committing. And I'm like, wow, but he's never even going to get here. It's 4 years away. It's like, what? This, like, we have so much time. And then I did the camp the next year, and then in 7th grade, and then 8th grade, I did it again. And then I did it again my freshman year. And ultimately, the new recruiting rules, I came down with Kyle for his official visit, because he was a senior. And I ended up driving out of the state of Virginia and gave Coach Mack a call, and he said, hey, look, we want to offer you, and we want to make you a Virginia Cavalier. We want you to take some time to think about it and make sure it's the right decision for you and your family. And I said, no, this is the place I want to be. I've wanted to come here since I was in 6th grade when Kyle committed here. This is where I want to be. I want to be a Virginia Cavalier and play for you and Coach O'Connor. And he said, all right, then, congratulations. We're super excited about it, and we can't wait to have you. So
nice.
It came together so quickly. And the other thing that really caught my eye with this program was when you look at this program and the amount of two-way players they have had that have been successful is a lot. Like, there are places where guys will go where they get told, like, yeah, you can be a two-way player here, and those guys never really get given the chance. Whereas here at UVA, Coach O'Connor gives you a true chance to play both positions. He is not favoring you towards one way. He's favoring you towards what the team needs, and he puts the team first always. And last year we needed someone in the bullpen, and me being a two-way player, we didn't need another outfielder. We didn't need someone else in the lineup. We needed someone in the bullpen because of injuries, and that was my role, and he put the team first in that aspect. So that really caught my eye with wanting to come here, because that was something my dad shared with me. He said, look, if you go to the University of Virginia, you will get the best degree possible. You will be set for life with that degree, but you will also get the chance to do what you've done since you were 5 years old. You'll be able to pitch, and you'll be able to hit, and you'll be able to play a position. You'll get to do everything. And that's why I want you to go to UVA. And nonetheless, like, I know I speak so highly of Coach O'Connor and Coach Mack, and the whole coaching staff, but that was the real main reason why I chose UVA. Yes, Kyle coming here, but my dad was one of my coaches when I was growing up, just because he owns his own baseball facility. I played for his teams, but he never treated me as his son on the field. I didn't call him dad on the field. I called him coach, or I called him Garrett. And that was something that he instilled in Kyle and I when we were super young, that he wasn't our dad on the field. He was our coach. And when playing for him and listening to the way he spoke and listening to the way Coach O'Connor spoke, in the first time I went to that camp when he talked about accountability, the 5-0 tolerances of Virginia baseball and what you need to do to be a Virginia Cavalier, that was when I realized I heard so much of what my dad said when I was growing up in Coach O'Connor and vice versa. Everything they say is pretty much, they preach the same values, they preach the same morals. And that's, my parents knew that Coach O'Connor and this coaching staff was always going to have their kids' best interest in mind. And they were always going to do what was best for this team and what was best for the group. So it was a no-brainer to come here and play for him, and because I knew he was always going to do right by what this team needed and what I needed. So that was really the main reason.
All right, well, we'll wrap it up with one last question that we'd like to ask a lot of our the players that come on here. Give us your walk-up song and why you chose it.
Yeah. So my walk-up song is "Your Heart or Mine" by John Party, and I heard it from Casey Cook. He played at UNC, and I think it was his sophomore year or something when I was a freshman. I heard it and I was like, man, this is a really good song. and I was like, most people don't know it, so you know what? I used it during summer ball. I used it during both summer balls, and I just really liked the song, and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna use it. So I used it, and it's been good. So I like it.
There you go.
There's no real reason behind it. I just liked it. I was like, man, this puts me in a good mood when I walk up to the plate. You want to be in a good mood when you go up there. So
there you go.
Seems to be working just fine, especially in that leadoff spot.
Yeah, so it's been great.
All right, Aidan. Well, that seems like a good spot to wrap things up. Thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coming at us live from the parking lot, right?
Yeah, no, I'm in my apartment parking lot right now, but I'm not sure if it's loud in there or not. So I'm in.
Just to be safe, let's just establish that the car wasn't parked the entire time.
Correct.
We don't want to field any complaints. So yes, the car wasn't parked the entire time. All right. Well, Aidan, thanks again, man. Yeah, the Who's at home tomorrow against Liberty, and then a big one this weekend in Tallahassee. 3 big ones, I should say. A big weekend against Florida State. So Aidan, thanks for joining us, man. Big week ahead. They're all big weeks, right?
Yep, all big weeks. You can't take anyone lightly, and you just take it one game at a time, opening day. So
there you go. All right, for Aidan, for Andrew, I'm Damon. Thanks for joining us on 1186 the podcast. We'll see you next time.